A cold night of frostfall, when the moon hung low in the sky and the dew weighed heavy on every leaf, the halls of the flower realm were filled with an unusual, almost sacred silence. Inside the grand palace, 24 flower guardians knelt in a perfect row, their eyes shining with respect and fear. Each of them held their breath, waiting, watching as every gaze was drawn to the couch at the center of the hall. There, lying pale and fragile, was the flower goddess, Zephin, and in her arms, cradled gently as though she were holding the most delicate blossom in all the realms, lay a newborn child. This child was not just any child. This child was destined to be the heroine of a tale that would stretch through the ages. Her name was Jin-Mi. But on the night of her birth, there was no laughter, no celebration, only a heavy, sorrowful weight in the air. Zephin, with hands trembling and lips pressed tight, passed a tiny pill into the hands of the peony guardian. With careful, almost reluctant movements, the peony guardian fed it to the infant's lips. That pill was no ordinary medicine. It was the Yundan, the doomed pellet. A single dose, and one would be cut off from all feelings of love, all desires of the heart. It was a pill meant to erase the warmth of human or immortal emotion entirely. Why would a mother do such a thing to her own daughter? Why would she choose a path of isolation and emptiness for a child who had just entered the world? Because Zephin knew. She knew that love could destroy. She knew the kind of pain that comes when hearts are torn, when desires go unfulfilled, when emotions are left to scorch and wound. She herself had suffered, and she would not allow her daughter to walk the same path. So she prayed that Jin-Mi would be free, free of love, free of heartbreak, free to wander the world unburdened by the cruel twists of the heart, free, strong, untouchable. And yet, even in her mercy, there was sorrow, because the absence of love is not joy. It is loneliness, a hollow emptiness that stretches through time. Zephin knew this, and still she chose this fate for her daughter, believing it was protection. Before her spirit finally drifted away, she gave her last instructions. Jin-Mi must never be crowned the next flower deity. Instead, the 24 guardians would take turns, ruling in cycles of the seasons. And Jin-Mi would remain hidden within the water mirror, sealed away for 10,000 years, never stepping outside the flower realm. It was a wish born not of cruelty, but of love, a love that could not risk failure, could not risk heartbreak, could not risk her child's soul. 4,000 years passed. 4,000 quiet, flowing years as petals drifted through spring, summer, autumn, and winter, unnoticed by the world outside. The flower goddess had long departed. Her mortal form faded into memory, yet her daughter remained. Jin-Mi grew, within the confines of the water mirror, a realm both beautiful and confining, a cage made of shimmering water and endless reflections. And what kind of girl had she become? Not the solemn goddess Zephin had imagined, not the dutiful, restrained air of flowers and magic, but playful, curious, mischievous, endlessly mischievous. She climbed trees, splashed in the streams, chased little water sprites, and sometimes, just sometimes, ignored the rules entirely. In those years, the old carrot spirit, Lao Hu, would gather the little flower spirits and lecture them on the 6 realms, their order, their laws. And Jin-Mi? She was often asleep on the highest branch of a tree, snoring softly as her tiny hands curled around a fallen blossom. It was the kind of innocence only a being untouched by love could have. Yet, even in her carelessness, the guardians watched, ever vigilant. One day, the peony guardian appeared. She tested Jin-Mi's abilities, a duel of magic and spirit, And as expected, Jinmi was weak. She stumbled, her spells misfiring, her body too small, too inexperienced. Peony scolded her, reminding her of the limits imposed by the water mirror. "Do not dream of leaving," she said sharply. "Your place is here. Grow strong first, then think of the world outside." Jinmi's eyes, however, always drifted toward the horizon she could not reach. She longed to see the skies beyond the mirror, the lands beyond the palace, the world that waited beyond the barrier. But her wishes were denied, over and over, by duty, by law, by guardians, by fate. That day was the memorial of the late flower goddess. Jinmi had nearly forgotten the ceremony. For her, the mother she never truly knew was little more than a shadow, a whisper in the palace. Yet she obeyed. She followed the other spirits to the grand altar, where the water mirror opened its gates once every 100 years, allowing even the weakest of spirits to pay their respects. At the ceremony, Jinmi was placed at the front as the peony guardian insisted. The others stood behind, hesitant, intimidated by the strict rules of order. The rituals were long, filled with chants and gestures, flowers and incense spiraling into the night air. Afterward, Peony bound Jinmi with a minor spell, a punishment for her carelessness. Jinmi struggled, twisted again, but the binding held firm. And then help came. A small water demon appeared, his eyes bright with loyalty and familiarity. Yan Yu, her friend, her protector. 900 years earlier, he had saved her from a dangerous beast, Jiangxi, while another little sprite had perished in the attack. Since then, Jinmi had repaid him, century after century, offering her spiritual energy to heal him. Their bond was deep, quiet, unspoken, like family. Meanwhile, in the heavenly realm, a different kind of storm was brewing. Xu Feng, the fire god, known also as the Phoenix, had spent 49 days in nirvana, burning, dying, and being reborn. This night marked the end of his final trial. The heavenly emperor and empress issued strict orders. None may enter his chamber. But shadows moved, and danger came swiftly. Assassins struck at the north gate, and Run Yu, the night deity, was forced into pursuit. A fire erupted, and Xu Feng vanished. Back in the flower realm, Jinmi encountered something unusual. A crow, weakened, feathers singed, had broken through the water mirror. Jinmi, ever curious, leaned close, muttering, "Are you alive? Can you breathe?" The crow rasped weakly. Frustrated, she sighed. 3 drops of my water should do it, or maybe I should cook it? Yes, this was her logic. As she debated, the crow transformed. Feathers became skin, wings became arms, claws turned into hands. Before her eyes, a young man lay half-conscious on the table. Startled, Jinmi's heart raced, but she quickly masked her fear. I saved you! You owe me. Call me your benefactor, she said, bowing clumsily. The young man, though wounded, was no ordinary being. He was Xu Feng, reborn from nirvana. His eyes, sharp and piercing, fell upon the locking spirit hairpin in Jinmi's hair. How could such a child possess this? He thought. Annoyed by her fearless, cheeky behavior, Xu Feng stretched his arms. A golden robe appeared around him in an instant, dazzling in its brilliance. From the small, ragged bird that Jinmi had first seen, he had transformed into the radiant phoenix, reborn and majestic. Jinmi's eyes widened. For the first time, she realized the gravity of the being before her. This was no ordinary crow. This was destiny in the flesh. And so, in a moment as quiet and fragile as a falling petal, Jinmi and Xu Feng's fates intertwined. She untouched by love, curious and reckless. He destined to burn with passion and desire. The story of the flower realm, the 6 realms, and the fire of hearts had only just begun. The morning sun sparkled across the waters of the flower realm, its light dancing on the surface of the sacred spring where Jinmi had often played. Today, she was not alone. By her side, the reborn phoenix, Shu Feng, followed her with a mixture of patience and growing exasperation. Jinmi, ever playful, had decided that the spring was the perfect place to, well, anything she fancied. And at that very moment, Shu Feng was drinking deeply from the clear, cool waters, savoring the refreshing taste. But then he noticed Jinmi. She was sitting at the edge of the spring, her small hands scooping the water, laughing to herself, and washing her feet. Shu Feng froze. Redness crept into his face, his chest puffed with indignation. You wild little sprite, he barked. Washing your feet in a sacred spring? Do you even know what you're doing? This is chaos! Absolute chaos! Jinmi looked up, her eyes sparkling with mischief. She tilted her head and smiled. Why? Do you want some water on your feet too? Shu Feng's hands clenched. Don't push me, you. But before he could finish, he realized something more urgent. Jinmi had noticed his hesitation, his intent to leave the flower realm, and she was already plotting. You owe me, she called out, bounding toward him. You saved your life, so now you have to take me with you, out of this water mirror, out to the heavens. Shu Feng froze again. This little sprite, fearless, reckless, demanding, and yet her logic was undeniable. She had saved him once. Now she wanted a return favor. But their time was not theirs alone. The guardians of the flower realm had noticed the breach, the missing bird, and began searching with all their might. Every corridor, every hidden pool, every corner of the water mirror, they scoured, seeking the intruder. Jinmi's quick mind worked faster. Seeing the approach of the guardians, she acted. A swift kick, and Shu Feng tumbled headlong into the spring. Splash! He flailed, water streaming down his golden feathers and robes. He was not familiar with swimming. He was the phoenix, yes, but a bird out of water is still very mortal. Jinmi, without hesitation, plunged in after him. Her small hands gripped his shoulders, dragging him to the shallows. When he coughed, sputtered, and lost consciousness, she didn't panic. Instead, she pressed her lips to his, mouth to mouth, just as she had seen mortals do in tales long forgotten. She fed him the Jixiang Liubao, 6 lucky treasures, tiny magical pearls that restored life and energy. Finally, Shu Feng coughed, his eyes fluttered open, and he stared at her. Exasperation, incredulity, and a trace of amusement all mingled in his gaze. You will take me to the heavens after tomorrow? Jinmi asked, her tone sweet, but carrying the weight of her tiny, cunning demands. Shu Feng sighed, and though he wanted to scold, to refuse, to explain the dangers, he nodded. Yes, I will take you after tomorrow. Far away, the mortal world and the heavens were in turmoil. At the palace of Yan City, King Gucheng received news that the Phoenix's nirvana had gone awry. The heavenly emperor dispatched 10,000 soldiers to seek Shu Feng, fearing chaos in the realms. The demon lord, ever watchful, saw an opportunity. With the heavens' defenses weakened, now was the perfect time to strike. Meanwhile, in the highest palace, the emperor comforted the empress. Many had been sent to search for Shu Feng, he said. The empress, however, saw an opportunity to secure the succession of Shu Feng as her rightful heir. And with a whisper here, a suggestion there, she subtly sowed seeds of discord between the night deity, Run Yu, and the emperor himself. But in the emperor's heart, Runyu had always been pure, kind, and unwavering. He would not be easily deceived. Back in the skies, Shu Feng carried Jinmi carefully, placing her in the fold of his sleeve as he soared into the clouds. The guardians, newly repaired after the previous breach, were stunned. The water mirror had been fortified, yet the phoenix breached it effortlessly. The begonia guardian gave chase, determined to bring him to justice, only to fail spectacularly. Meanwhile, the peony guardian discovered that Jin Mi was missing. She rushed to Lao Hu and the Forsythia guardian, only to notice scattered feathers. Unmistakably bird feathers. Confused and alarmed, she listened as the defeated begonia guardian described Xu Feng's appearance. Mistakenly, Peony believed the culprit was the bird clan's leader, Sui He, abducting Jin Mi under the guise of loyalty. Peony personally went to the bird clan to demand answers. Sui He, prepared to interrogate her flock, received urgent news. The demon realm was preparing to invade the heavens. With the situation dire, she abandoned Peony's request, flying immediately to the heavens to help defend her realm. Peony, outmatched and powerless, could do nothing but cut off the bird clan's food supply and retreat into meditation, sharpening her strength. As Xu Feng flew over the river of forgetfulness, he sensed a surge of dark energy. He appeared in Bian City just in time to see King Gucheng and his council in discussion. "Stop accusing others for your own crimes," Xu Feng roared, drawing the phoenix feather arrow, a weapon that radiated fire and authority. The three were cowed, trembling under the display of his power. The king's daughter, Liu Ying, however, was unafraid. She stepped forward, ready to fight. A few exchanges later, she was defeated, and all who opposed Xu Feng, Demon Lord included, found themselves forced into respect and caution. The emperor and empress realized the potential threat when they saw the ice shards left behind during Xu Feng's nirvana by Run Yu. Rushing to the 9th heaven hall, they summoned Run Yu for questioning. He denied any involvement, his expression unreadable. Xu Feng, meanwhile, returned to the 9th heaven, encountering Sui He along the way. During their exchange, Sui He discovered Jin Mi, recognizing her role in the recent chaos. To repay her for saving Xu Feng's life, Sui He gave Jin Mi pills to enhance her spiritual power. And in that moment, Jin Mi finally understood. Xu Feng was no ordinary being. He was the reborn phoenix, radiant, powerful, and awe-inspiring. The winds of fate had shifted. The flower realm, the heavens, and even the demon realm were now connected by threads of destiny that Jinmi could not yet comprehend. She, the girl who could not feel love, and he, the phoenix who burned with it, were now on the same path. Their story had grown larger, more complicated, and far more dangerous. And so began the events that would ripple across realms. Adventures, battles, and choices that would test courage, loyalty, and the very heart of the heavens themselves. End of episode